today is a little bit of a different format. We're going to have a bit of an Ask Me Anything scenario here. So for the folks who are lucky enough to be able to attend this live, this is meant to be a conversation. This is not a presentation. In fact, one of my favorite quotes that I think Abe actually, in passing, pounded in my head was that, and I wrote it down, people buy into people, not PowerPoints. So in other words, like, we're just focusing on connection today. And so for those who are on this call who are kind of multitasking, I do challenge you to take a moment and just try to be present here. There are people that fly around the world to spend time in Abe's office, and we're really fortunate to have him today. When the backstory here, before I ask Abe to do a little intro as well, is Dana here, is that when I first moved to Keller Williams in 2014 from Coldwell Banker, Gary Keller, as part of his mastermind group, essentially mandated that everyone in that group would have a coach. And to be frank, like, I didn't know what that meant. I had a baseball coach in my life. I've had some religious, figures that were advisors to me. But from a business perspective, I was like, I don't get it. We have a book. We read the MREA. We just do the thing. Like, what else is there to talk about? But through serendipity and really good luck on our part, we were introduced to this gentleman, Abe Shreve, as our coach. I think he was forced to take us on. I'm not sure if he had a choice to actually, but so I want, for those that don't know, hang on a second, let me share my screen for a second. These are just a couple of photos from Abe's Instagram, and I encourage you to follow Abe, because you can learn a lot about living a purposeful life by following Abe. This is just an example of like a small room that Abe would speak to. So this is how I met him. So we met him. Okay, Abe's this guy who's speaking and educating top real estate professionals all over the country. Then, as we got to know each other more, I was impressed with some of the extracurricular pursuits. So here's a photo. This is, I think, Abe, you posted this on the second anniversary of when you had that really harrowing experience climbing El Cap with Hans, right?
Yeah.
This, in fact, was when.
Yeah.
This is your climbing partner who, at this point, had 2 broken legs because he had fallen, and you were.
Yeah. So about probably 3 hours prior to this photo, we were about 2,200 feet up El Cap, which is the largest unbroken cliff on the North American continent. And Hans there he holds all kinds of world records. He's the ascent record for El Cap. He's speed record. He won the World Cup in rock climbing, and he fell and broke both his legs. And so here we sit, and the look on his face is kind of what you get with someone like that has 2 smashed legs, but is worried, am I cold or do I need anything?
Yep. And I will ask you to share the backstory of how you guys even met. I want to bury that lead a little bit. I want to come back to that, because I think there's lessons in how you even ended up in this situation in the first place. What I love about this picture too is like the look in Abe's eyes of a lot of emotions going on, right? But knowing that the realities you both are living, and you sat here all night, correct, Abe? Until the next morning before you could be rescued?
Well, in this particular spot, I was there until search and rescue came and got him, which was right about dark. And then they flew 12 rescuers to the top of El Cap, about 1,500 feet of rope, and they lowered 2 guys down with a rescue board, and they put Hans on that and took him out. And then I started the process of rappelling 2 times the height of the Empire State Building at night. And I ended up staying on this great ledge halfway down because I was just fried.
Yeah.
Just needed to get some sleep. So I did sleep up there, which is nothing weird for us.
Okay. So we're introduced for people. Yeah. So we're introduced to this guy, Abe, who's going to become our coach. And then I get to witness him living life and modeling the very same behaviors he was coaching me on, right? Like, okay, you want to do something big, who are you taking cues from? Well, Abe wanted to become a better climber, so who does he spend his time with? Okay. So we have that. And then I literally spent an entire summer of our coaching calls with him and his family on the road in their adventure van. I think this is it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the family mansion.
Yeah, watching him and his kids traveling the world and living life, and he'd be coaching me sitting in the garden section of a Home Depot, making himself at home before they went out and did adventures the rest of the day. And so, like, again, modeling the behavior of like, wow, like, we talk about life by design, but if we're all being really honest, like, what are we really doing? Or are we just thinking about doing that someday? So Abe taught me a lot of valuable lessons about just like living for today. Part of the reason I end up living where I'm living now, frankly. And then what I love about him, this photo not only shows Abe like in his natural habitat, or one of them, but also shows like the reality of like half of our calls as partners, he was still further demonstrating like we can have really intense business conversations, but I'm not going to give up the fun I want in my life. And so I thought these 4 photos, I was looking back through, it was kind of fun actually, scrolling back through the history, but these summarize some of the aspects of life that I've been able to share with Abe in a professional and a personal capacity. But I think for those that don't know Abe, can you give us before I go, so I have a whole list of questions that people send me in advance of this call. So I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you'll nail it. I'll kind of moderate and take you through some of these. I'm sure we'll end up in a couple different
no pressure. No pressure.
No pressure. But maybe just share a little bit of the background about how you went from being in real estate to now being a partner of Gary Keller's and running MAPS Business Coaching. Just I don't know how easy that story is to tell, but would love for you to share a little bit of it today.
Yeah. So I think I was so I started my career in real estate at Century 21. I had a great broker, still today a dear friend, and the person I consider my first real mentor in business. And then I was exposed to Keller Williams. You can't really unsee what you see. And I had been working to start a team, and listen, I failed at doing that at Keller Williams for a lot of years. I mean, and I had the models for it. Imagine what I was doing at Century 21. It was like a dumpster fire at a murder scene. And but I did move over to Keller Williams and just fell in love with it. And I had a really close friend of mine named Joshua Stern, who was the one that brought me over. Maybe some of you will know Josh. And he's just an amazing mentor and friend. And so I remember I'd go to these conferences, and I felt like I was stuck. It was hard to describe it. I would see the people up on stage and think, I've got that in me. It wasn't that I desired the lights. I just knew I could do what they were doing, but there was something just kind of missing. There were times, if I'm, when I'm brutally honest with myself, that I would leave feeling down instead of inspired, because I'm like, why does everyone else seems to have this down? It's such a hard thing for me. And I found my way to new construction, did really well in new construction. We'd buy land and develop it and develop lots and sell lots. I call it the season I got to print money. And then this thing happened in 2008. It was like it was like aliens came to Earth and took all of the Breyer's mint chocolate chip ice cream. Just about the worst thing you can imagine, right? It's
the white chocolate chip, or you like the green?
The mint chocolate chip, Breyer's with the B. The mint this is when you get to heaven. This is what they'll give you as you walk in.
I understand.
I mean, it was terrible, and I remember exactly where I was when my lending partner called and said the secondary market has crashed and none of our things are going to close. And he was right. None of them closed. And I was the personal guarantor. And that's actually when I found coaching. And my first coach did amazing things with me. I just remember I was not alone any longer. And I think many of us will know who Tony DeCello is. And I don't know if I just caught him in a weak moment, or my sales skills were right on point, or whatever it was. But at some point I was successful in talking him into taking me on, even though I really, at the time, I didn't think I qualified for his roster. Now, what I would learn later is I qualified. I mean, what Tony wanted is the same thing I think any great coach wants, is someone who's hungry and is going to do things, and so Tony and I worked together for quite a while, and we talked about going into coaching. I talked to him about coaching. He talked to me about being a coach, and timing just wasn't right over time. And I went to work for a guy named Brad Wilson, who was an owner of a company called Destination Homes here in Utah. It's a big construction company. And it was 3 years of learning from one of the greatest business leaders I've ever known. And just a real honor. And I remember walking into his office about 18 months into my job and saying, I really think today's the first day I know what I'm doing here. I mean, how did you even keep me? And this will tell you everything about Brad. He said, well, we saw enough in you to keep investing. And most experts believe that it's 18 months to conscious competence in a new role. I'm like, oh, there's the academic quote. And but then I connected. I was at a training in Austin and reconnected with Tony, and the time was right. And so we talked about coaching, and I ended up applying. I remember thinking it'd be easier to balance the federal budget than to complete this MAPS application, but I got through it, and they hired me. And here's kind of an interesting story here, Jake, kind of a sub story. I was doing this for time because, well, I loved the company that I was working with. I just was gripped. I was stressed all the time. I worked every Saturday. I think because I love the people I worked with, I had this desire to do more and be more. And it was a time of, really intense growth for me, personally and professionally. And so it was just time to do something else. And I remember they sent over the contract, and it's for 25% less than what we've talked about the whole time. It's kind of a big deal because I'm calculating time. How much time to replace all my income. And this means I have to do 25% more and, first world problems, cry me a river. But I remember I called and I said, hey, I got the contract, but this is less than what we've been talking about. And they said to me, just about the worst thing that you can say to someone like me, and probably someone like you too, which is, oh, we're really sorry about that. We're going to be doing something, and I can't tell you what it is, but you're going to love it.
I love that.
Jake, why is that the worst thing to say to people like us?
Oh man, I just feel like, well, it depends. I guess it depends on the level of trust, right? But to go into a new relationship and have that happen makes me feel like I'm not valued, or
yeah, it felt a little slippery. It felt a little slippery.
Slimy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the truth was they introduced a really great program, but it didn't come out for like 6 months.
Right.
There were 4 of us, and they threw me a problem child for the trial. Devin Doherty, if anyone knows Devin. No one can work with this guy. He really struggles. We worked together great. Yeah. Great. What I learned with Devin right in the beginning was he doesn't emit. Like he told me, I said, Devin, people think you're a jerk. Why do they think that? I don't see that. And he goes, because I don't have emotion. There's nothing there, and people they don't get that. But I got it. It was, we worked well. So I found myself working with these incredible people. I mean, I know what I know in this business because of people that, like you, Jake, that I got to work with. And I remember I made a decision. So I am one of 4. So now I'm working with, there's only one other person in our company working with more of Gary's room than me, and it's Tony. And I'm one of 4 people making 25% less than anyone else in the company. And this was the decision I made. And it wasn't hard. I said, I'm going to not care about this for 1 year. I've got a plan. I know what I'm doing with my family. I got to work 25% more. It's still way less than what I was. I'm going to not care about this for 1 year. The other 3 guys weren't able to do it. That's 2 guys and a girl. They couldn't get past it. And ultimately they would self-select out. 2 months later, Tony DeCello comes. And part of the reason I made that decision was I'm a new coach. Like, this is new to me. I know some things about business. I also know some things about coaching, but I considered myself very new, and I didn't want a sense of what I thought I was owed to stand in the way of my opportunity to learn and master a new skill for business and life. And I remember Tony came to me 2 months later and said, I want to retire, and I would like you to partner with me and be with me with the clients that we're coaching. And I ended up doing that. He said to me, you'll just sit on the call for the first year and listen. Oh my gosh, I thought I didn't know I'd survive it, and so there I'm just sitting there listening. And then one day he brings me into the call. It was really a cheap shot, Jake, because I was in Walmart buying food, because for 2 months I hadn't spoke. So I'm listening. You guys are all going to think I'm always on a river or something when I'm coaching. I'm really not, but I was in Walmart, and he brings me on with a guy named Craig Rieger. Hey, what do you think? You're in new construction. What the freak? So I had to find a place to make it sound like I was in my office. And after that, what Tony said was, hey, from now on, just be on the call with us full bore. So if you were a client of ours, you had he and I coming at you full blast for 22 months. It was really special. But it was that, to get back to your original question, Jake, that is how I met Gary. And I remember he invited me to be on a panel. And we had a call in advance, and we kind of talked about what we would talk about. And then we got on the panel, and he didn't talk about any of it. And it was the first time I ever talked one-on-one with Gary, was in front of 18,000 people. And he said, Abe, let's start with you. Who are you? We didn't talk about that. I didn't know what to say. I was ready for everything else. And I think I said something like, I love coaching. I mean, I think I came back around because he had me on, the next 3 years. And then he approached me about this. And so that's probably a short story made long, but I share that because I think a coach's journey is really, and a leader's journey too, by the way, is really beautiful because I think oftentimes people think that we're who we are because we know so much or we've done so much, but the truth is we're an amalgamation of the people that we work with. And one of the things I talk to our coaches about is the second you take credit for something one of your clients has done, you're embezzling from their efforts. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's scary to go into business with your business hero. That's freaky. Jake, I got caught staring into the mustache. You'll do and say anything in those moments. Yeah, it's true. But I can tell you before heaven and all the angels, Gary has been an amazing partner to me. He's kept every promise he's made to me. And it's really been amazing. And yeah, that was long.
Thank you. No, thank you. It's important context. I think, and many people have even seen you spoke probably don't even understand some of your backstory. So I appreciate that. And by the way, for your benefit too, Abe, like on this call, we have team leaders, we have MCAs, we have assistant MCAs, we have agents, we have agents leading teams. And you brought up an interesting point before I jump in all these questions I have here about apprenticeship and your time with Tony there. And your comment that I'm just not going to care about that for a year. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to work to learn and things will work out. What role do you think apprenticeship should actually play in our industry? So many of us struggle with like, how do we start in the business as an individual? How do we help new team members start? Team leaders, how do we help new agents join a productivity coaching program? So like, what conversation are we missing, do you think, in the real estate industry about the importance of apprenticeship as you just demonstrated with your time with Tony?
Boy, it's a great topic because, well, for a couple of reasons. One is I think it's important for us to talk about, and two, no one's ever asked me that. I've never talked. That's a valuable question. I mean, that's a conversation we should keep in motion because as I look back at my personal development, well, I was an employee at certain times. I was an apprentice because I was learning. I was working with learning-based leaders that were helping me, and I think that our industry is special. Our industry is unique. And I can say that with a lot of confidence because Jake, you were a part of us going out into the world and finding other businesses to coach and teach. And I think part of what we've learned, and correct me if you disagree with this, but part of what we learned is that the realtor holds a special position in the hearts and minds of those they work with and their clients. And I don't see that from insurance agents the same, probably some, but by and large, not the same, or others. I just use that as just a general thing. And, and to be fair, I'm around the realtors much more. So, if I've spoken out of turn and someone wants to punch my face, take it up with Noah. So but apprenticeship, so I think we are entrepreneurial, most of us by nature. One of the things that Keller Williams does for us is it brings the borderline entrepreneurial anarchism of the spirit of Gary Keller, but then it adds in these models and these systems and a pathway. And if we think of the pathway as I'm a child when I start, and then I'm going to be, I'm an infant, then I'm a toddler, then I'm a young preteen, and then I'm a teenager. I mean, I can tell you, I turned 50 in October. Teresa turns 50 in June, so I'm not as old as my wife. There's 4 months of cougar season every year, but I turned 50 this year, and I don't look at business the same, nor do I talk the same as I did in my 20s. And I look back and I want to go back and slap that dude, but I got a lot done, in my 20s. And Jake, what I think that apprenticeship could do with the right mentor and with the right leaders, what apprenticeship could do for someone who can pocket their pride. And I think the reason I was able to pocket my pride so easily was the influence of Brad. I'd worked with someone that was prideless, that cared more about the people around him and their development than him, that I'd soaked that in for 3 years. So it wasn't really hard for me to say, I'm not going to care about this because that's what Brad would have done. And I was around him. And so but I think you can shortcut your learning journey. You can get there quicker. Now, can I answer the follow-up question that I think is important? Why don't people do it more?
Yeah.
I don't think as speaking in glittering generalities, I don't see a lot of teams and groups truly building a world big enough that someone in their life can build the world they want to be in there. We see some, but if you're going to have someone apprentice, and at the same time, you're going to worry that they're learning from you and they're going to take what they learn and go out on their own, build a bigger world. I think when we say talent pushes, that's actually what we're talking about, is staying ahead of opportunity for people that are high octane, you know. So I think apprenticeship is a big deal. Like I look back and think I really am what I am because I worked with some amazing leaders that really helped.
Well, and actually, I think if Courtney's on the call, we just got off a call together. We were talking about this, where so often at Keller Williams speak, we hear, right, like exactly what you just said, Abe, like, you know, build a big enough dream and big enough world where the people that are within your world can achieve their dreams within it. And we think about that from like, I'm running a team or I'm running a market center, and like that just speaks to the agents in my team or in my market center. I argue that actually applies to your clients as well. I think when you see these magnetic connections between a client and the agent, it's because the agent thinks so big. They're like, wow, not only can Steve help me with my primary home, but he's going to help me buy investment properties that'll change the financial trajectory of my life, right? So it's not just about the people we employ, but rather those who are employing us. It's the same thing. We need to think that big, yes. Right? Yeah. Hey, Courtney. So here's a question from Dana. I'm going to try, I think I have everyone's names, extra question. So Dana was asking kind of the $1 million question right now, is like, you know, as much as Gary gets on stage and talks to us, you know, telling us 6 months ago that we're in a recession, and it was only 3 months later that the news started talking about a recession. We're entering an unknown market, right, in an evolving industry. What is the most important thing for us to implement in our businesses right now, from what you're seeing both in the real estate space and outside? And I'm just curious, I know it's a very general question, but what are you seeing that are blind spots that may be universally applicable that we could chat about today?
Well, I'll tell you what immediately came to my mind was the right morning habits. And this is something that I feel really strongly about, because I think a good market, a strong market, allows us to relax a little, even if we don't feel relaxed, because it feels like we're just really busy everywhere. When we got to fight a little bit for the market, when you read shift, which everyone should be reading right now, but we go back into shift, who can tell me what tactic 1 is?
Okay, I can't remember offhand. It has something to do with managed expenses or something. I can't remember.
That's number 2. Right? Number 2 is remargin your business.
Yeah.
Number 1 is get real and get right.
Get real right.
Get real and get right, meaning get clear on what the true circumstances are. And, you know, Gary and Jay didn't ask for my input on any of the information that went into shift. And, you know, that hurts a little, but I'm going to move past it. But if I could go back and just add one little editorial note, which I'm sure they say in there, you know, better than me anyway, but if I could add one thing, it would be get real and get right. And as soon as you're clear on what your real circumstances are, lean into the difficulty of it. Lean in. This will be a season we have to work harder for what we get. And sometimes a strong market helps people who normally would never be entitled or be a victim become entitled and be a victim for a short season. And the faster that we can get that out of our world and just realize that, and I can give you a real personal example on this, that the way the business is the way I manage my life and business today, or the way I've been managing my life and business, is no longer right for how I need to manage my life and business for the next season. As soon as we realize that, then we can get to work on it. And I've just gone through this personally, you know, and it's been a little painful. But, you know, at age 49, with gray coming into my beard and a daughter being married that was 2 years old yesterday, I love that. Get real and get, you know, it just means what it means, right? Interest rates go up, someone's going to buy a house and someone's going to sell it to them. And but the morning habits and the morning lead generation habits and the skill, I think of going back to the basics, but I hesitate to use that, because Jake, you know the number one problem with the word basic?
What's that?
We think it's basic. And they don't call it, we think it's easy. They don't call it easy training. They call it basic training, and it's hell. For people that are getting started, the basics aren't easy. They're fundamental, they're foundational. And so in 08, when the market fell out, I kicked and screamed and cried and did all those things. And then I went through Bold. I had never called a FSBO because they didn't have souls. I didn't like them. Wasn't good at them. I mean, the truth is it was about me, not them. I wasn't good at that. And all of a sudden I have to fight to pay our mortgage. Bold was helpful. I hated Bold because it was so hard. It made me so uncomfortable, but it probably saw me through. And, I remember during that season, I went and bought, Jake, when I say that we had a license to print money in 05 and 06 and 07, we could have bought anything we wanted. And now I'm buying a shirt and 2-tie combo at Sears for like 15 bucks because I can get 2 ties. And I've noticed that if I go to the office with all the mental battle I'm fighting right now to get a hold of this, if I go to the office and anything less than dressed up, I get depressed. So I'm dressing the part, I'm going into meetings, I'm practicing. Like, it's a hard season, but it really changed things for us. And I think if the market is shifting, and it's not if, it's shifted already, it's going. And that means it's time to double down on the morning habits. Those things that maybe we haven't done in the past. Just because we haven't done them doesn't mean that they're not ready for us and that we're not ready for those.
And I say this with love. I really do. There's been times in my career since I've come across Gary Keller where I'll like roll my eyes and be like, this book's irrelevant. Like, what does this have to do with what Abe's talking about today? Then you freaking turn to page 308, and what do you see? An energy plan that was written 30 years ago that tells me that every day before 11 a.m. I should be meditating and praying to activate my spiritual energy, exercise and eat to exercise my physical energy, hug, kiss, and laugh for my emotional energy, plan and calendar for my mental energy, and lead generate to boost my business energy. It's already there. Like, how does he know these things? Anyway.
I know how he knows them. He went through the pain of it. Gary's story is one of becoming. It's one of the reasons I think a lot of us identify for him, because he's transparent in what he has not done right and what's been hard and where he's failed. Yeah. And so it gives us, it makes it okay to go out and try something big and not do well and learn what we have to learn. And so, this, I would invite everyone that's listening to this to look at their economic model. And I would ask you, how many times a week are you studying it? Like, come up with a real number. If it's 0, it's 0. And I would ask how many, who's practicing their dialogues, like really practicing, because when the market gets hard, we get paid in direct proportion to our skill. Not what's easiest to us, but to our skills. And I would say, where in the business do you feel you've shortcut things and been able to because of your personality?
Right.
That one's autobiographical.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. So Shoba is in Bold today, but I promised I'd ask this question. She's going to watch it later. Abe, how do you get up each day and do the same thing, your one thing, your lead gen, that you must do even when you don't want to? What do we have to connect to in order to answer that question?
Marijuana. No, I'm in Utah, not Colorado. Let me back that out. Well, it really is the right question. And again, I feel like what you guys, everything you're asking me it feels so autobiographical to me. I think you booby trap your success. When I was in the 7th grade, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. It was not popular then. It was not. Now we just, my ADD, and it's like some symbol of those that are fun. It was not, by the way, it's not fun. And it wasn't something to be proud of back in the day, but it gave me some unique challenges, I think, in a lot of ways. It's my superpower. However, However, I can't time block every minute of every day. I don't know that everybody can, if that's useful, but I can be bulletproof before noon every day. The success of a day starts the night before. And there's a part of our business that we just have to get comfortable with repetitious boredom and some delayed gratification. But I believe I look at the times in my life that were the most difficult, that I just had to lean in, and I do this now, I would craft the way I go to bed. Don't look at your phone, get it out of your room. Good news, alarm clocks have never been cheaper, and they are so available. Well, it's my alarm. That's stupid that you're. And I don't have social media on my phone. I don't. When I want to post something, and a lot of times my team's like, you got to put something out. I used to all the time. But I started to notice, Jake, that I was paying attention to the number of likes and not who was liking.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't lead you where you want to go mentally. And so, do you know what happens when you stop watching the news and you get off social media? Do you know what happens?
Life?
Yeah. That's better than my answer. My answer is nothing. No one's coming. It's all okay.
Yeah.
You still walk around, you breathe in and out, you interact with people, you get less, you feel less tense. And so I don't have those on my phone when I want to post. I download the apps, I post, and I delete the apps. People say, is that cumbersome? And I say, yes, by design. So this is what I'm talking about, booby trapping the day. And wake up on purpose. And so, my bedstand is built for me to wake up on purpose. I wake up, I grab, I have water right there. And then I know at 6 o'clock, Ron Pippin's going to be at my door to work out. And I get up at 5:15. Now, I want to say this for everyone listening. Not one morning, not one, ever is that easy. Some people just glitter awake. Their eyes, as their eyes are opening, the bluebird is landing on their shoulder. No, I'm shaking the fog out of my eyes at 5:15. But here's the secret. If the alarm goes off and you stand up and you drink water, your body starts. And one of the favorite booby traps I learned from a book called The Power of Full Engagement, which is one of my go-tos. I think I've read that every year since it's come out. There's a couple of books that I'll read every year because they've just been so good for me personally. And this one says that the more mental energy required to begin a process, the less likely we are to carry it out long term. And the way we do that is the way we overcome that is we build healthy rituals. They say that healthy rituals, which, by the way, a ritual is a system. So healthy systems or healthy rituals bridge the gap between the comfort of the past and the challenge of the future. That really stood out to me. So I set up rituals for the morning. The alarm clock, not being my phone, the water on the nightstand, those are rituals. I can do those. My clothes, I pay a trainer to design my workout because every decision we make in the morning takes something from us. Every one. What am I going to eat? What are the kids going to wear? Like all of these things, these are decisions that can be made the night before. We can lay out our clothes, we can do these things. And if we think of it that way, I'm going to limit the number of decisions I make so that I get into, my lead generation space with the most mental and emotional resources I've got. And then the other thing I would say to that, Jake, is prep the lead gen. List building in a lead generation system is the kiss of death. And you want to booby trap lead gen? People say start with the hardest one. Why? Start with dessert. Call the part that gets you a victory. Now don't skip the hard part, but look, I call those that I'm most inclined to succeed with first, and then I call the others. And so this is how I do it before noon. And then at noon, from noon to 2, and this isn't the way it is, I'm a little out of balance right now, but when I was in production from noon to 2 in my schedule, it said, swim in the crazy. And no one was allowed to do anything in that 2-hour block. I pre-planned my spontaneity. I'm a person that needs some time to just not be organized, to check email or Facebook or go on a walk or go running or just walk around the office or obsess over, some weird purchase or lay on the floor and take a nap. I've done all these things. And I would just plan for that. And it would give me some holding power during the period that I'm being disciplined.
I want to,
Don't know if I answered that, but
no, I want to zoom in on something too, because what I learned from you, I've watched it with you. We would literally take people on tours of your office, which is very rare. Like I've seen an office, I've seen one, seen them all, right? Well, Abe's office had a full workout system, had a rock climbing wall, had multiple like unicycles, had a table, a kitchen. Like it was his environment supported his goals. I feel like we don't talk specifically about that enough. And because there's a lot of questions here about like, how do you get back up when you're knocked down, or what do you say to yourself when you're failing? And to me, you literally surround yourself with the answer. Like you cut off the synapse before it can get across your brain. Like I'm doing all these things so I can do more of the other things on my rock climbing wall. Like it was right there. Whereas like if we're in our offices and it's just white walls and computer screens, but our passion is insert fill in the blank here. What's our relationship with our goal, I guess is the answer there. But I'm just curious how that's evolved for you, because I know I view that as one of the keys to your success in watching you. But how would you coach us on that? Because the specific question even from Matt was, what do you say to yourself when you get knocked down and you want to get back up? And I'm guessing all those things are combined, but what's your take on that?
There's a lot of really good things in there. My favorite productivity principle comes from the one thing, and you said it, it's does your environment match your goals? And rock climbers that climb the way that I have, they don't have families. They typically don't stay married. That's, you're chasing the mountains. And my greatest joy in life is being Teresa's husband and the father of my 4 kids. And so, I'm a believer that I think all of us need something. I really think I need this, and I kind of hope it applies to everyone, Jake, how I want to say this. I do better when I have something that scares me, where I feel new and vulnerable and a little freaked out, where there's nothing really at stake. And rock climbing, people would say, oh, so dangerous. That's pretty calculated the way I do it. I mean, Hans fell, but he didn't fall off the wall. He fell and hit a little ledge, broke his feet on his 171st ascent of El Cap. Like, things happen. And so I build my office such that on my breaks, I can do my workout. And when I was training for El Cap, I would go to the office at 4 a.m. and I would train for 3 hours. And I simulated all the climbing in my office. I built things to simulate all the climbing, because then I could work, and then I would go home and see my kids' games and be with them. And so I've always engineered my office. Even when I was just in the market center, there was always a fridge, and there was always, I always would put a pull-up bar on the door and impress people with the 3 pull-ups I could do. But I always had something like that. And so I am a big believer in that life by design principle. And I will say this right now. This is a unique time to hear this for me. 4 years ago, we bought that van because I realized for kind of the first time, Maddie's going to be gone. Now I'm going to try and not get all freaked out and emotional here. Jake's seen me ugly crying. He never wants to see that again. But it freaked Teresa and I out. And my solution was, what if we bought a van and just traveled around in our creepy van? And we bought that van and we converted it ourselves. We went to 28 states together. Well, guys, it happened. That happened. 4 years went just like we thought it would. And she left the house just like we thought. But I can say before God and all the angels, we did it right. We did it right. And so there will never be a better time to engage in the relationships around you. Our kids' childhood isn't for sale. And at least mine's not. If you're saying, well, one day I'll spend time with them, but right now I got to work, then you're saying your kid's childhood is for sale. I think that it's important that we make a stand and then we demonstrate how to live. We have to demonstrate how to live. So a lot of the reason I would rock climb, because I don't know if you guys know this, but when you get a little older, that kind of an activity makes you more tired. That's a shock, I'm sure. But there are, 3 hours of training, I'd burn 2,200 calories. I'm in the best physical condition of my life, but I'm tired. It's taking me out for 3 days in terms of training. However, my kids got to look at their dad and say, there's nothing I can't do because look what he's doing. My wife is a performer, and for many years she would say, I wish I could do the theater, just the local theater. And she's such a talented singer. And we're not, my thought was, we're not living like that. We're not doing that. We're not going to blame the kids for the reason we weren't able to do the things that we wanted to do. We're going to take them with us. And so Teresa does theater, and it's 12 weeks, you guys. There are weeks she's gone every night. And we should own stock in Little Caesars Pizza for all that the kids have had. But my kids get to look at their mother and say, we get to do, look, mom's doing her thing. Mom's doing her thing. And if you don't have a thing, then I'm so excited for you, because start exploring. I don't climb anymore, but I found something else, and it scares me more than climbing. And so, find a thing. Do you guys see behind me?
Yeah.
You see that, Jake? Do you know what that is?
Is it a cello?
It's a cello.
Huh.
I heard Teresa for several years say, one day I'd love to learn the cello. That's the beauty of Amazon. Cello showed up on the front doorstep. She still doesn't play the cello, but that doesn't mean it's not, opportunity is not there. But so to transition to the question of how do you get up when you've been knocked down? I get up by turning to the relationships that mean the most to me and asking for their help. Asking for their help. We have a family mission statement, and if you want, Jake, I'll send it to you.
Please
share it out. But one of the things is we greet each other with love and enthusiasm when we come home, and we do that here. And when someone comes in and you can see it's hard, then we talk to them and we get into it. And I think that this business is hard enough that we shouldn't do it alone. We shouldn't do it alone, and so that's why I always have a coach. And that's why I don't hide from my kids when it's hard. And let me just say this, business under the best of circumstances can be hard. It's rewarding. It's tough. It's messy. Weirdos like us on this call, for some reason, we just love it. Doesn't mean that it's not really hard at times. And so I get up. First of all, I take the hit. It's okay if it's hard. It's okay if it hurts. Jake, I think one of the challenges in the space that I get to play in, and I think many of you, is that we're so into, if you believe and achieve in the mindset, and that's all very important, that when something's really hard, we don't allow a person to have a difficult moment. And from a neuroscience standpoint, that is harmful. And the best thing we can do is sit with someone for a minute, and I'll do this on coaching calls. I'll be on a call with someone and something bad's happened. They've lost a key player on the team. They're hurting in operations, but they're also hurting personally because someone that they really care about is no longer working with them. And we'll get on the call and they're like, oh, it was a terrible week, but it's going to be, I'll be fine. And they want to move past it. And a good coach will say, nope, I promise we're going to get to all the stuff. I'm going to jump right on your face. I promise. But that sounds rough. Can we talk about that for a minute? It's important that we have people that we can do that with. Yeah. And the people around us won't know how to help us the way we want until we tell them. So find a few folks that you really trust and say, hey, sometimes my business takes a bite out of me. There's a few people I think I'd like to come to when it's tough. And would you be one of those? You're not going to hear a lot of no's. And then feel free to say, when I come like that, what I'm really looking for is I want you to hear me out. Just listen to me. Let me get it out. And then you can pick me up and help push me back out the door. But let me say it first. I think that's an important part of it. So now link these together, Jake. Let's link them together. We're going to commit to working on the right habits for the morning. We're going to booby trap the success by making decisions and things the night before. That's actually going to minimize the negative challenges that happen in our business, right? Think of a time that you were having a terrible day, and then that one person reached out and said, hey, I'm thinking about moving brokerages. Can I come and talk to you? Or someone said, hey, my sister said, we got to sell our house. If I don't use you, I'm crazy. I mean, that fast things change. And so I think do the stuff, don't do it alone, set up the relationships that are the most important to you so they know how to help, and then do the work. And let me give you just a fourth component to that I think is important, Jake. Mm-hmm. When you get off track, listen to me, look at me, look at my face. When you get off track, start again. Start again. We're so hard on ourselves. Yeah. Morning doesn't go the way we wanted. We get in the office at 9:10. We were going to be there at 8:30. It's 9:10. What do we think, Jake?
Oh, I'm like,
it's ruined. Day's ruined. 9:10. The known world's been on the clock for 10 minutes. Just look at your plan. Where would I have been? And start. Yeah. Most of us are one deliberate call and interaction away from feeling different in the business. When we feel different, we can do things. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm just vomiting all of my stuff.
You're good. You're good. I got a rapid fire for you, a couple of rapid fire questions. And then I do want to end though with, I want you to tell the whole group a little bit more about MAPS business coaching and what you're doing, because maybe some people want to get involved, support, et cetera. So a couple of rapid fire there, right? Okay. If you could gift 3 books to someone, what 3 books would you gift them to help them live the best life possible?
The One Thing, Multipliers, and The Power of Full Engagement.
The One Thing, Multipliers, The Power of Full Engagement. Okay.
And I have a really, really strong 4th book, if you'll let me.
Yes, please.
Getting Things Done by David Allen.
David, okay. I didn't know if you're going to know Matthew Townsend or not. I didn't know if
I love
relationships.
I love math stuff. I mean, this is hard, but when I think back, that starve stuff, let's put that in as a strong number 5 for relationships.
Yeah, I share that slide more than anything when we feel and I literally, that's the one piece of paper on my wall in my office is that actually.
I have it on mine as well.
If you could have one gigantic billboard that would get a message out to billions of people in the world, what would it say?
Well, I'll tell you what came to mind initially. This being recorded.
Just should I pause it? I don't know where you go with this.
No, it's fine. Jettison the BS. Jettison the BS. I just think there's so much crap out there that doesn't matter. I think when I say the news and you see the air quotes, I'm talking about all of them. Like there's no news anymore. It's and if you watch the news, you just think we hate each other all the time, and we don't. When we get together in person, even when we disagree, we are wired to connect. And I would say jettison all the BS. It's crap. Don't listen to it. Get it out. Here's the beautiful news. If you listen to CNN or if you listen to Fox, it doesn't matter. Whichever one, you could stop, come back 1 year. I promise you, it'll all still be there. You won't even miss anything. So you can not worry about that. Just get rid of it and get into the relationship. So I would say jettison the BS, clean it out, be protective.
What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the recent past?
$12.
Little notebook?
Yep. My kids got at church. My kids got this these little notebooks for their goals, and I'm like, I could fit that in my pocket. And so this is just a little moleskin notebook. I've already had to repair the binding because I used to put the pin in it. But Jake, I've already written in here, impact is the most important word in our lives. Jake Dreyfus. The point of this call is to share info and support our culture. I loved that. I have things here I wrote from our training call this morning. Claire Bone, one of our great coaches, wrote in there. I ideate in here. I took Gorilla Tape and I put it on the back so it holds my pen. but having, this has been amazing. Having, I can get myself bogged down in the system of my notes and everything. Just having a thing that lets me stop and just catalog, I'm amazed at the clarity this little thing has brought me. $12.
All right, final question before I'd like you to just do a closing with us on what MAPS business coaching is for those who may have missed it or don't know it, but okay. What are some of the bad recommendations or a bad recommendation or piece of advice that you hear people giving people in our profession?
What is like the faulty, like the bad?
What's a bad piece of advice you hear us getting, or what cliche do we hear that's like, no, that's wrong? Like what?
Ooh, I like that.
You may have already touched on it today, but I was curious.
Well, your bold instructor will hate me for this. Who's teaching bold?
Michael Flores right now.
Oh, I love Mike. So
he's good.
In all those years of lead generation, Jake, it never got easy for me. I just knew when it wouldn't hurt. It's kind of like jumping in cold water. You're like, it's gonna be hard for a second, then I'll be okay. And so I just knew I had to get into the first call. And so I don't know exactly what the cliche is, but I've heard people say that mastery comes when you do something uncomfortable long enough that it feels uncomfortable not to do it. And I really love that. It's beautiful on a t-shirt. I think it makes sense for lots of things. But if generating business feels hard, it's okay. It's hard for lots of us. It's why we get skilled. It's why we do it with others. It's why we booby trap. We do reward systems. We have coaches. It's why we do all that. I think sometimes in our effort to convince ourselves that it just gets easy, we set ourselves up for the day that we feel like we're just not cut out for this or that. Look, difficulty is important in our lives. It's important. It's what allows us to grow. And we're either going to experience difficulty because life will bring it our way, and it will for all of us, or we're going to facilitate our growth because we're going to insert difficulty.
Yeah. And
so I think when people give advice like it's just all in the mindset, it's just this, it's just that, just typically means what I say next is probably not completely accurate.
Got it. So can you share with us the mission of MAPS business coaching, and maybe if people want to get involved or just refer, how does it work? Maybe give us the commercial on that so we can support you.
Would love to. So you were here, Jake, when we came up with the mission. It's we create sacred partnerships that require the best in us to bring out the best in them. We have just launched the Millionaire Business Network. It is a collaboration with Keller Williams and with KW MAPS Coaching and KW agents. And what we're doing is we're partnering with Keller Williams agents that want to build their own unique business network. It is unlike anything that's out there today. We literally provide all the training, and it's network in a box, basically everything that's needed for you to become the expert and thought leader among your business community. And we're doing our second, the way that it starts is you apply, and you can apply by just going to, you could text something to something, but you can also just go to the millionairebusinessnetwork.com, millionairebusinessnetwork.com. And you'll spend 2 days with us. And in that 2 days, we're going to advance your leadership language. We're going to work together on all kinds of things. We had our first one. Jake, you would love it, man. It was just like the old days. It was, we come together, grow together, learn together, and play together. And our next one's in Maryland next week. And then we've got one the following month here in Ogden, where I am. And then you launch it and you're part of a community. You are no longer alone. We anticipate this will be the #1 lead lever for people that are doing it. Gary said he's wanted to do this for 20 years. And now the team and the timing is right. We're starting small. And if you need it to be all perfectly wrapped up, I'd probably wait. But if you want to be a part of building this with us, it's the hardest thing. It's the biggest challenge I've ever had professionally is coming up with this. But we have a great group of those that went in the first launch that have just been helping us change the model. And I believe that what we learn at Keller Williams, I've learned it is not universal out in the world of business. And this group can bring this to the people out there that that want help in their business. You can be the thought leader, and we partner with you. And so,
Awesome.
you know, that's, I probably did the worst explanation ever of what that is right now, Jake. And if you want to get in the business lab with us, and you want to advance the way you look at business, the way you talk about it, and the business that comes to you from other business owners, join us at the Millionaire Business Network.
So it's a chance for me as a KW associate to build my own networking group to pour into my community and for my community to support me as well.
Yes.
You give me the models and help and systems.
We have everything for you.
Got it.
We partner with you. You are ours. It's not another job.
Got it.
We get a hold of you, and Lord help you when that happens.
All right. When I share this around to everyone tomorrow, I'll include information about all of that in the email piece so people can. I've always dreamt. It's ironic. I've always dreamt of creating my own networking group. In fact, I started one back in Philadelphia before I moved. That was called the Active Networking Group, where we would work out and we'd network at the same time. But I didn't know. It fell flat because I didn't have any systems or models. To be frank, like I had good intentions, but you know what they say about that. So I'd love to learn more about this on a personal level too, and share with all of our associates. Abe, I know we're over
Jake,
time.
we get enough people in your area, I'll come do boot camp there.
Okay.
I would love that.
All right. I'll bring it up to everyone tomorrow. Let's see what we can do. Abe, I know we're over time, and I just appreciate you spending your time with us to impact us and give us some advice and punch us in the nose and get us back out there. So just want to say it's an honor to know you, and I appreciate the time.
I'm grateful for you guys, and I'll go to the dark side of the moon and back for Jake Dreyfus. You guys you got some amazing leaders.
Thank you, Abe.
A lot of fondness for Florida.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Well, good luck dress shopping, Abe. We're all counting on you.
I'm not going there.
You're not
I'm
allowed.
going to the airport to fly to Nashville to speak at Mastermind with my daughters in their running dress. What in the world?
Oh boy. Okay.
Love you guys.
Appreciate you, Abe. Thank you, buddy. Take
Yeah.
care, everybody.
Thank
Have a great
you.
afternoon.
Thank you.